To the regular October meeting of the Concord Zoning Board of Adjustment. We'll follow our usual procedure this evening, which is to say we will take the cases in the order they appear in the agenda. I will ask the appellant to come forward and be sworn in and offer and be seated in the chair to my right and offer testimony that he or she would like us to hear. We will then ask the appellant to step down, and we will solicit testimony from anyone in the room who is in favor or in opposition to the appeal. We ask that the appellants confine their testimony to a 10-minute interval, if at all possible, and that those from the audience confine themselves to a 5-minute. See if there is any information from that office that bears on the case. And then under most circumstances, we will act on each case before moving on to the next. We do have one variation on a theme this evening, which is to say the first item on the agenda is a request for a rehearing. Customarily, the board does not take testimony in a request for rehearing. Or people requesting the rehearing. And there are certain criteria for granting a rehearing which are different from those of granting a variance or a special exception. And those have to do with whether or not the petitioner has presented us with new relevant information that was not available at the time that we heard the case, or that there is an error in law or procedure that is identified that we were not aware of at the time that we acted. So I believe all...
Chris?
Yes.
I was just thinking that since we only have the 4 members... Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm still on 4. See, my mind's gone completely.
Yes, that interesting?
We are fine.
I may not be, but we
That's
are.
the last case.
Right,
The
yes.
last case we go to 4.
Yeah.
I'm still stuck. Oh, well.
So the case is 5118 Nancy Gaultier, or Thierry, I believe. The applicant wishes to build a 20 by 20 foot addition on the northerly side of an existing house. The board granted the variance, and we had a memorandum submitted for a request for rehearing. Has everyone had a chance to read through it?
Yes.
And I guess the question is, does anyone on the board believe that the memo presented met any of the criteria for granting a rehearing?
No, I mean, I think that they raised these arguments and facts at the hearing. You know, the key paragraph to me here is paragraph that they've numbered 11, which there was competing testimony about whether any other areas would have been suitable for further building that would not have invaded in the setback, and there essentially was conflicting testimony on those points, and I don't think there's any independent or expert evidence presented by either party, which put me, at least, and probably the whole board, in a somewhat difficult position. But I didn't think one party was particularly more credible than the other, but I sort of weighed that, and I personally found that there's at least some credibility that there was no other place they could have put it, and that kind of led me to my decision. And I think the point, but they were well made at the hearing, and it wouldn't change my view.
Jim?
Yeah, I agree with Andrew. I think that much of what's in here was presented to us at the public hearing. I don't see anything new.
Jim?
I was not at the original hearing. This doesn't appear to be anything new, and I'm not sure there's any error in interpreting the law. But again, I wasn't at the hearing, so it's hard for me to comment further.
I just reviewed the minutes, and it appeared at the hearing that they investigated whether the appellant would be able to build in another section, so that was addressed at the hearing, and I don't see any new evidence in the letter from the Gaultieri family, so I don't see any reason.
Would anyone care to make a motion?
So I'd move to deny the request for a rehearing.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The vote is unanimous. The request for rehearing is denied. The first evening that is new business is case 5618, Richard J. Day and Jacqueline A. Day. The applicant wishes to construct a garage accessory to an existing non-conforming residence and requests a variance to the table of accessory uses to permit an accessory garage where such use is not permitted for property located at 108 Old Loudon Road in a GWP Gateway Performance District. Come on up.
Do we have any paperwork?
I don't know. Do we have files?
Jim's been hoarding them.
Yes.
Promise to tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
Yeah, that's okay, I'll figure it out.
Yourselves for the record as you testify, please.
Good evening. My name is Greg Silverman, counsel for Dick and Jackie Day.
I am Jackie Day.
I'm Richard Day.
What would you like us to know?
Good evening. To summarize our variance application, the Days seek to construct a garage as an accessory use to their single-family residence, store antique and classic cars. While the garage is a permitted use in a residential district, the Days home, after the purchase, was later rezoned to a GWP, and we believe that it should be granted because, one, it will allow the Days to use their residence to its best use, and two, potentially transition the property for future use as a commercial property, which is a permitted use within the GWP. So for some brief background, the Days single-family residence was constructed in 1963. They purchased it 20 years later in 1983. And at the time, it was zoned as a residential country district. In 1994, it was rezoned into a commercial district, and then in 2001, specified as a GWP.
Andrew, can I see the thing?
As you can see on this map, the Days residence is in a unique spot between Loudon Road and Old Loudon Road. Currently is abutting major commercial properties, such as a nail salon, a hearing aid care store, Barron's Major Brands and Appliances, as well as Walmart.
Where are we on here, Craig?
Right here. That's the Days property, intersection of Old Loudon Road
Oh, okay.
and Loudon Road.
Right.
Walmart right here. Yeah. The tractor company up there. So.
Right, right.
And so the Days ran Dick Day Motors, which was on Loudon Road for many years. And the purpose behind this variance is they seek to store their collection of antique and classic cars. They're currently stored in separate, some of them are currently stored in separate trailers, which are on the lot. In our application, towards the end, potential renderings of what that garage might look like. And it's likely to be 7 bays, which could hold about 12 to 14 cars. And they seek to construct it in an aesthetically pleasing way, and the total size of the garage will be approximately 5,600 square feet.
Appears from these photographs that the garage is only for classic cars. Chevrolets in particular.
Well,
So, if...
Do you have any problem with the setbacks or lot coverage, any of the other issues that surround zoning in this?
No, we plan to build the garage with... constructed where the arrow is on the screen.
Where would the entry,
So the
entryway be to the?
The entryway would be next to the house.
So
Old Loudon Road, not Loudon Road.
Yes. So the garage would be approximately here with the driveway as access into the garage.
It is a commercial district, right?
Right. So the residential use was established prior to the commercial rezoning of the district. When the district was rezoned commercial, the house became a non-conforming use at that point in time. A residential garage is considered an accessory to a non-residential use. Residential use is also not permitted.
Did you just misspeak? It's accessory to a residential use.
Right.
isn't it?
What did I say?
Non-residential use.
Okay, great. So where it's not a permitted accessory use, or I should say also the expansion of a residential use is not permitted because it's not an allowed use in the district. In order to have a garage for that residential use, you need a variance.
And how come what's the rationale behind not allowing garages in a commercial district? Like
Again, a garage as accessory to a residential use.
it's accessory to a
Right,
residential
yeah.
use.
And since residential use is not permitted in that district, we do not allow accessory garages in that district either.
But if you had a business where a garage would be helpful.
As part of a principal use, yes, you could have a garage.
I see.
For
But it's because
for a
it's for the-
commercial
I
use. And if it was
see.
a commercial use, they'd have to abide by a whole different.
But it would be allowed if they had a commercial use as in
Sure.
the principal. I got it,
Sure.
okay.
Yeah.
Got it, okay.
Midas or somebody down the road would.
Right,
yeah.
right, that makes sense, okay.
So I can walk the board through the factors submitted on our application very briefly. And as the discussion, I guess the main point here is that the Days purchased this house when it was a residential country district, and it later was rezoned, so therefore now it's non-conforming. And so their hope is not only to use their current residence right now to its best use, but also their thought process is because across the street on Old Loudon Road is a residential district, medium density. But this side of Old Loudon Road is GWP. And so the garage would be used as an accessory use to their residence, but it would likely be used as a way to transition this property from to conform with the use with the permitted uses within a GWP.
If you want to take us through a brief tour of the,
Sure.
we have read the application, so
Okay.
we're aware of your rationale, but it doesn't hurt to hit the high points.
Thank you. So I'll start at factor 1A. The zoning restrictions interfere with the reasonable use of the property. As I mentioned, this is a unique situation where the residence was conforming, now it's not. If you look at accessory uses, a garage is a permitted use in, well, let me get my math right, 14 of the 18 sub-districts. GWP is one that is, a garage is not a permitted use. And so because the Days purchased this property before it was rezoned into a GWP, we believe that the zoning restrictions interfere with their reasonable use of the property. 1AB, the purpose of a GWP is to, or part of the purpose is to provide for well-designed developments which are expected to adhere to high standards for appearance in order to ensure that the You'll see towards the end of our application some renderings of what this proposed garage would look like. The Days wish to construct it in an aesthetically pleasing manner. And it also would only cover a little over 5,000 square feet and will be a less intensive use than a permitted use within a GWP, which could include things like commercial spaces less than or greater than 5,000 square feet, hotels, convention centers, things like that. We believe it fits within the transition from a residence into a GWP type use. Number 2, granting of the variance is not GWP. Non-conforming use within a GWP. Number 3, the variance is not contrary to public interest because it is consistent with the existing non-conforming residential structure. The garage, like I mentioned, is going to be constructed in a visually appealing manner, and we believe that it will hopefully be used in the future as a conforming use within the GWP. Number 4, the variance will result in substantial justice because the Days will be able to use their residential structure to its best use, and we don't see any harm to the public here, and if there is any, it's de minimis. And finally, number 5, it will not diminish the value of surrounding properties. It's going to be constructed in a visually appealing manner. The proposed use is less intensive than other permitted uses. And we have a letter from an abutter, Mark and Christine Bogatz. They live directly across the street. And can I pass this
Yes,
letter?
yes, please.
Thank you. Here's copies.
Great, thank you.
Is it the same?
Yeah.
Oh, it's the same, I just. Two copies of the state.
They count. So to summarize Mark and Christine's letter, the proposed garage, Mark and Christine have seen renderings. They like the way this garage was going to look. It will eliminate the need for the mobile trailers on the Days property where they currently store some of their car collection. And it might also block some noise from Loudon Road into their house, and they're fully on board with this project. So in conclusion, the variance should be granted. It's going to allow the Days to use their residence to its best use and also hopefully help transform this property from its current non-conforming use into a conforming use in the future. And with that, we will answer any questions the board might have.
Any questions from the board?
I have a question for Craig.
You bet.
If this was a conforming residential use, is there any restriction on the size of a garage?
Not as long as it meets the required setbacks.
Setbacks,
And doesn't
yeah.
exceed lot coverage. Those are the governing issues there.
So if we just consider this a garage for a non-conforming use, it would meet all those standards.
Correct.
Secondly, what is the obligation of the applicant to build according to the plans they're submitting here?
If there was any significant difference in the style, we would ask that they come back here to show you what they're proposing and see if it would make a difference on your decision. This also, because it's in a performance zone, will require architectural design review before the planning board.
Okay. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Amy, anything?
Yeah, I'm assuming the setback is from Old Loudon Road. Is this a piece of property with 2 front yards?
Yes, actually 3 if you count this side over here too. So 3 front lot lines, 3
Yeah.
front
And
setbacks,
is there
yes.
presently a curb cut onto Loudon Road?
No.
No.
No, there is a permit. The Days have a permit if they would like to do that, but there currently is not.
Yeah, there's actually a drainage ditch and wetlands area that is along the sides here, and I think there's there too, so there's.
Terrific. Thank you.
I have a question for Craig.
Okay.
What is the status of the property? It's labeled at 341 and 391. What is that on that corner? That was recently sold, I believe, and is that a similar situation?
Yes, that's enough. Let me just double check the zoning district. That would be a similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, up and around the corner, at least, yeah. That's what I wanted.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone, if you would all step down, thank you. Is there anyone here who wishes to be heard in favor of this appeal? Is there anyone who wishes to be heard in opposition to it? We do have the letter, as Attorney Silverman said, and it essentially, Mark and Christine Bogaz of 103 Old Loudon Road are in favor of the project and are aware of its details. Any comments from code enforcement?
No, nothing to add.
With that, we'll close the public testimony portion of the hearing. We have a request to build a garage as an accessory structure to a house which was originally in compliance with the zoning, but now is not because the zoning has been changed in this area.
Move in favor of the request. Move in favor of the request.
I couldn't understand.
Motion in favor of the request.
We have a motion in favor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Amy, would you like to give us your rationale?
I think
Amy,
it's,
could you just pull that microphone over there? They're all facing away from you at the moment, so.
I think it's in conformity with the other structures, and I think it would be more appealing than the trailers that are sitting there now.
All right.
I'd like to add that I think the hardship here is clearly that they were rezoned out of normal use, a reasonable use of the property as they purchased it. It's not as if they came in after zoning. And a garage of this type would be allowed where it's still in the residential district. So I feel that the hardship is that they were taking away their rights, basically. And I would be in favor, and I think they've hit on these other cases where it really isn't going to negatively impact the spirit of the zoning because it is a potential commercial type.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second, I believe. Any discussion on the motion other than what we've already had? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The vote is unanimous. The variance is granted. Next case, and the last case on the agenda this evening, is case 5718, Mark Fiegel and Mary Brunette. The applicant wishes to install a bulkhead for basement access and requests a variance to the table of dimensional regulations to permit the closest point of the proposed bulkhead to be no less than 11 feet from the side property line where a 15-foot side setback is required for property at 56 Auburn Street in an RS residential single-family district.
Chris, just so you know, I'm recused on this case, so you only have 4.
Very good. Mr. Fiegel?
Good evening.
Feigl.
Feigl, that's
I'm
right.
sorry to
Thank you.
mispronounce it. Apologies. You understand that the fact that you have a 4 rather than a 5-member board is not grounds for requesting a rehearing. Very well.
Thank you.
Please proceed.
Good evening. My name is Mark Feigl. I'm kind of new to this and to the application. I hope that it's rather self-explanatory. I mean, the bulk of it is that we're requesting a variance for a small bulkhead that, and I'm not too good with the dimensions, but it's literally about the size of this to go out the basement. So we need a little bit of a extra, it goes into the setback. I think the diagram hopefully shows it for you. If anyone's not familiar, it's one of those kind of things that comes out of the cellar and then it would go towards the property line. All of the abutters, of course, as you know better than I, were contacted. They're all, and was I sworn in? But I mean, under oath, they particularly.
If you weren't, we'll overlook the fact that the chair screwed up his job.
Okay, the main, the gentleman right next to us, which I would characterize as sort of the number main abutter, Mr. Gary Frere. I spoke with him, and his response was, "Of course, Mark, I don't have a problem." The other neighbors who got the certified letter, again, who are all friends of ours, were asked if they should come tonight. I said that I didn't think it was necessary, but I can say that everyone who contacted me was, of course, we don't have a problem with it at all. So that's, I'm happy to entertain any questions. I'm not super familiar with the process, but whatever else I can do to explain it. And I apologize for the sort of the hand-drawn diagram, but it was kind of the best I, could come up with, or that, well, that's what I did. So I hope that's helpful.
Questions for Mr. Feigelman?
Yes.
Or Mr. Feigl? For some reason, I feel compelled to do damage to your name. I
It's
do
quite,
apologize.
I'm very used to it, but thank you very much.
So the bulkhead's going to be on the back of the house?
Yeah, gosh, it's on the side of the house, I guess you would call it, I would call it the north side of our house on Auburn Street.
So would there be a location on one of the other 3 sides of the house where it wouldn't create a setback issue?
It could, sort of. If it went out the other side, it would be in the driveway. And if it went out the back, there's an addition that's going on which has brought this on. That wouldn't be as effective just because of the layout of the house, and it would also go, I think, awkwardly into our backyard and patio area.
Okay. So so it makes sense for it to be there to.
Yeah.
Other places would
be sort of
the driveway or the layout of the house, the basement, that type of thing.
Would be, yeah, less than optimum, absolutely.
Great. Perfect. Thanks.
Any other questions for the board?
What is your current access? Is this to a full basement that you're getting access to?
Yes, sir. There's a basement, and the current access goes out. Can I walk up here?
Yeah,
And again, as you guys know better than I do, this is not accurate. But so this is 15 feet. The shed's over here. The addition goes up in here like this, and the current bulkhead goes here, so it can no longer really go there. And again, this would go into the driveway, and this is sort of the yard patio area. So that's why the hope is that this would, and if any, I don't know if Mr. Walker can, but this gentleman, this is actually sort of a wooded area right in here.
Is that the front of your house?
That's the front of my house, right?
Yeah, okay.
That's cool. Awesome. And this is the front, and here's it would be over here. And this is, Mr. Walker probably knows better than I do, but this, and then going across Auburn, and then there's, the other is over here is a trail area where kids walk to get to Ridge Road, or I walk to get Ridge Road. And I'm not really ever sure what that's all. This is where the bears walk through and stuff. But over here, I mean, there's not, it's a wonderful part of our neighborhood and our house in the sense that for whatever reason, this is this buffer area between me and the next house over.
Does that tree line come into your property? Or
yeah, if you go back, Mr. Walker, yeah.
Sure.
The tree, you can almost see the fence here. That's the tree right there. And it's sort of right on the edge.
would you have to take down any trees to put this bulkhead in?
No, sir. No, it's all.
So you have an existing bulkhead that's going to be where you're adding an addition? Is that what
That's
you're
right,
saying?
yeah.
So you're just moving the bulkhead?
Off to the
So
difference.
you have no interior access to the basement?
Well, we still have the old bulkhead. I mean,
Well, once that's removed.
right, correct.
You have no interior access, so.
Oh, we have an interior, I'm sorry, into the basement from the house.
Correct.
And then, right, and then the new bulkhead is to replace the old bulkhead.
I think there's a code requirement for 2 accesses to the basement, isn't there, Greg?
I believe only if it's being used for a living space. I'm not sure it's other than that.
If it's just storage, it's not
Yeah.
required.
Right.
And the addition will require no variance, as far as you know?
No, we have the building permit on that already.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's mechanicals in the basement, furnace, hot water heater, things like that?
Right, furnace, hot water heater,
So you'd want to have the bulkhead access to get at that stuff?
right, yeah, yes, sir.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Is there anyone who'd like to be heard in favor or in opposition? Any comments from code enforcement?
Nothing unless you have a couple questions.
All right, we have a request for a side yard setback variance in order to relocate a basement bulkhead. It's a very large structure, about 6 feet by 5 feet, and has a total height of about 20 inches at the maximum.
And what angle is it constructed at?
Well, let's see, I'd have to do the trig, and I doubt you want to wait for me to do that. Discussion or a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Is there a second? Any rationale? you
Yeah, I
wanna
think
add to
I'd just say that it's a logical place to put the bulkhead. It's a tight piece of property and other potential locations, given the additions going on the permitted additions going on the back, in the driveway, which would have been the other options. And we certainly don't want a bulkhead facing Auburn Street, so I will, and so that's my reason for moving to approve.
Is there a second? We have a second already?
I second.
Yeah.
And I just say it, the elevation or the size of this encroachment is negligible, and therefore even less impact on the neighborhood and the butters.
Very good. All in favor?
Aye?
Anyone opposed? The vote is unanimous. The variance is granted. Craig, do you have any more business for us this evening?
Just what we sent out for an email earlier. Well, originally, Heather Shank, the planning director, was going to be here tonight to give a presentation on an update on the progress on the revisions to the zoning ordinance. Because of the few people that were going to be here, we decided to offer it next Wednesday night at 5 o'clock, run from 5 to 6. So if you can make it, you're more than welcome. And as always, it's a public meeting, so anybody is welcome to attend.
Is it just for the zoning board?
Yes, yeah, you're the primary invitees, but again, public meeting.
I went to her one 2 weeks ago, and so I
Yeah.
don't think I'll be here, but it was good. She
Yep.
had all sorts of charts up.
Is it going to
I
put
like
us out of
charts.
business?
Oh,
A
and
lot of
it's,
Charts are good.
This is the big deal with this thing, a lot of graphics.
Yeah.
yeah.
Right in the ordinance. I mean, it's not, none of this.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the so-called,
Will this new ordinance make our meetings shorter?
I hope so.
I don't know.
Camera's still running.
I hope so. When we,
There'll still be issues, I'm sure, so.
when we had our first discussions with the consultants, my first request was to reduce our business if at all possible.
You got a motion on the minutes?
Is there a motion on the minutes to approve?
I wasn't here, so.
I move to approve.
Were you here, Amy? I'll second then. All in favor?
I was yes, in favor.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? The vote is unanimous.
Starting to feel like all that hard work in minutes.
Motion to close?
Motion to close?
Yeah, that way you
Say
You read them,
5:30
Rose.
next
You read
that way you
them.
can turn off the red light.
5 o'clock.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Good evening.